Good afternoon. Welcome to Awaken the World Sunday Live Q&A. Today's question discussion is on the dark night of ego. One of those questions that arises out of it is, if there is no wrong and no right, no light, no dark, no good, no evil, how do we solve any of our issues? This is a big thing. And what I have found, first off, is that, waking up is actually not hard to do. When I was contemplating book titles a couple years ago, and believe me, it's been a long journey because I find writing quite painful. Speaking is so much easier for me. And I was going to call the book Waking Up is Hard to Do. But everything in life, your whole journey here, is designed to help wake you up. I mean, it is inevitable. And, we'd all love for it to happen in this life, in this incarnation, in this manifestation as one tiny drop of the whole that we are. But in reality, a lot of times, it's just going to happen when it's going to happen. That's just it. You're waking up right now. It's a process. It's ongoing. Every time you jump down another rabbit hole, you pop into a slightly larger universe, and the door slams shut behind you forever. And this is, part of the big problem. Kelly and I were out for a walk today, or maybe we were driving somewhere. It's hard to tell. And I'd kind of said to her out of the blue, I said, here's what happens. We look upon our existence and we see that our consciousness has been raised. We've had some sort of experience, something we can't really put into words, something that's shown us that we are more than we thought we were. And that is only the tiny tip of the iceberg of your awakening. Terry, how you doing? Yeah, I did show up. Or you need Kelly to show up. So, hello, Terry. Were you there at the meditation this morning? I think you were. What did you think of it? That was my first time doing Shiva Shambho, if you were there. And if not, it's on the group page or on YouTube on the Help Awaken channel. So this, this begins that journey. It actually turns out that the big problem is what to do after you've fallen out of bed, right? And that's the title of my upcoming book, is Now That You've Fallen Out of Bed. The waking up part's going to happen. It's happening. It's an ongoing happening. Eckhart Tolle, for example, when he had that one profound moment on that bench, that realization, it was over in an instant. That wasn't it. It never is it. Okay? It's grace. He had surrendered finally to the point that there was an opening in him that, as Shiva Shambho represents, where Shiva, there was a crack, and Shiva took a swing at that crack and cracked him open. And for a moment he became timeless, but when he came back into time again, he spent years in monasteries and various places in the East. Oh, good. We're glad that you enjoyed it this morning. That was great. Yeah, it was my first attempt at that one. I've used that mantra myself for a long time, but I've never actually decided how I would do it for a live audience. So that's great. I actually ended up overriding my microphone. I'm going to have to turn the gain down a little because I noticed there's some distortion getting in there. And I have a very good quality microphone, and what happens is, if I'm not very careful, I was using, I would say, about a fifth of my full volume effect that I can put into my voice, that deep harmonic, and it was actually vibrating the metal shield on my microphone. So I'm going to have to compensate for that a bit. So, this is the dark night of ego, and this is where we end up in after we've fallen out of the bed. Our life before awakening, initially, and oh, thank you. And you know what? You are always awesome. It is the people who we interact with that are awesome. I mean, when we accept that we're all awesome, and I'm going to back off and go in a totally different direction here because this is very necessary. You know, Kelly and I have been together for 4 years and 3 months and change right now. And, one of the things that she's noticed is that whenever we are out anywhere, I exude this presence, right? It speaks of a total ease, a total self confidence, a total okayness with myself, and a full faith and belief that I am capable and powerful and can do anything, absolutely anything. And people absorb that in different ways. A lot of people say, okay, well, that's arrogance, and I said to Kelly, I said, if you'll notice one thing, I'm more than willing to tell somebody exactly how powerful I am. But I always follow it up with, as you are too. So as I am, so are you. As you are, I am. We all are powerful beings sitting at a circular table. Why? Because there is no head. And we sit eye to eye. No matter what our individual height, we have adjustable chairs. It's really a lot of fun. They spin too. We all have this within us, and that power comes back to you when you fully surrender, when you fully give in. This is what the dark night of ego is all about, and this dark night can last for lifetimes. I'm not kidding you. Been there, done that. Oh yeah, I've been accused of being a narcissist, and that's okay. I am willing to be the one to change the world, but here's the thing, I think every other one of us can change the world too. And the way I choose to change the world is through trying to wake people up and wake myself up and serving where it is brought to my awareness. And yeah, I can read all your minds, so that gives me an edge. But so can you. I mean, we all have these abilities. This is the thing that I preach, if I must be a preacher in any sort, is I preach of your innate power. The magnificence of your own being, the one-of-a-kind uniqueness of what you are. This is us together as one. Both individual and unique as a drop in the ocean, never separate, never able to be discerned as separate from it, never alone, never apart, and yet unique. And uniquely special because of that. Where do we come to in this dark night of ego? Well, this is really what happens, and this is what my book is really about. Okay, is how do you deal with it? Because this is what happens to you, okay? You've had an event. This experience, whether it was Shiva's titanium baseball bat to the back of the head that knocked you flat, an extreme illness, a sudden death, anything that cuts you down and cracks the false armor you wear, those faces and masks that we wear for people, that we're still lying in our beds asleep. And what happens? Whack! In comes that titanium baseball bat, and you roll to the edge of the bed, and just as your eyes are starting to open, that's when gravity takes over, and kerplunk, you've hit that floor. And as I will quote my own manuscript here, there is a very ironic thing about being human. The best overview we get of our existence is from the floor, from the ground, when we've been knocked to it. So you've been knocked to the ground, and when you get up off the ground, it takes a while because, man, you got hit. I know I sure did. Like I said, Kelly says, honey, I love the shape of your skull. You know, she loves rubbing her hands over it. And, you know, yeah, I've got a classic skeleton hanging in the classroom skull on my head, but that was fluke. It got knocked into that shape by the number of whacks on the head I had to take before I finally cracked open. Ha. So when we do get up, we look around us and come on, tell the truth. You don't know whether the world has gone nuts or whether you have gone nuts. Own up to it. It's okay. Hello, Jennifer. Nice to see you too. Hi. We were just talking about you. No, I'm kidding. We weren't. So, you know, we get up and you know, damn it, did the world just go crazy or did I go crazy? And I got to tell you, when I got whacked on the head, I didn't have the advantage of the internet. I mean, cell phones were just coming around, the big boxy things were just coming around. I thought I had gone crazy. I know a lot of you did too. But you or, you know, and finally you accept that you're not crazy. But you don't understand anymore how you could have not seen the insanity of the world you're living in. Everything's suddenly upside down. Everything's like it's gone 180 degrees. Your friends that you used to party with and have so much fun with, all of a sudden it's not so much fun. It's hollow. You see through it. And you don't want to go there anymore. And their consciousness hasn't come up. You tread that dark night very much alone. Now, here's where, you know, bless their hearts, we have an immense supply of beautiful spiritual teachers who are all guiding humanity through their own way towards waking. But honestly, I got to tell you, the reason I've changed this book title and the reason I'm focusing it on the Dark Night of Ego is that's the big deal. Events are going to wake you up sooner or later by hook or by crook. The Shiva the Gentle, as in Shambho, Shiva Shambho, or Shiva the Destroyer, wielding a humanity race-changing sword of serious destruction. One way or another, we're going to wake up. But it's that dark night of ego we enter and that we need to deal with. And here's why. You've had that experience. You've seen the more. And now the sole focus of your life is integrating that into your egoic sense of self because you're not going to escape it. It's not meant to disappear. It's not meant to be killed. It's not meant to be subsumed and lost. You put it in the doghouse and it behaves itself and it grows and it matures. It evolves towards, in its conscious expression, to mirror the unconscious or spirit, not the unconscious, but the unseen, the sea of consciousness, the spiritual realm's evolution. Evolution of the singular shard manifesting itself into the physical realm. Naming itself and believing that's all it is, and then finding out for the first time that it's more, and then having to integrate that more, having to integrate the knowledge of that. And it's not easy. And we hit, of course, the first concept that drives most of us nuts. Well, there really is no right, and there is no wrong. And the first thing you're going to say, and I couldn't agree with you more, is that, well, to rape a 6-year-old is wrong. You betcha. I agree, totally. So, what? Now what? There is no right, there is no wrong. Every spiritual text says so. What are we talking about? We're talking about what happens when we do that with the label, okay? And let me give you an example of this. To cut down an old growth forest does not serve the planet, nor does it serve the environment, nor does it serve humanity. That's true. To cut down an old growth forest is wrong. Here's where the issue comes in. When we turn things into right and wrong, if I'm the one in the wrong, well, guess what? I'm already in a defensive posture. Why? Because I've been programmed that right means righteous and the upper hand and God on their side, and wrong means in the dark, lower, and of the devil. Hello, Kim Fraser. Nice to see you. Speaking of the devil. Sorry, I don't mean that. But that's okay. I took a poke at Jennifer too, so you know. Don't feel I singled you out. But that's what happens with right and wrong. Okay? There's a deeper meaning behind the words and the statements than there is, and Kelly's laughing hysterically over there. I think she has her headphones on for this, so she's about 10-second delay. So this is what happens when we label right and wrong, okay? As soon as we make something right for us, we're right and you're wrong, we become righteous. We hold that over. Yeah, hey? Like I said, I can read all your minds. Some of them are pretty dark and twisted. Yeah, kind of felt like home, actually. So that's what we do with those labels. I mean, of course of course we can say it's wrong to rape a 6-year-old and be absolutely right. But it's what we do after we've made that judgment. And many of the things that we would judge right at one time are judged wrong at another time. You know, well, it was right for us to drop a nuclear bomb on Japan. Not one, 2 of them. We dropped the second one. The United States dropped the second nuclear bomb on Nagasaki because they wanted to test the other design. Japan had already indicated and signaled they were going to surrender. They just lost 30 million people in Hiroshima, I'm not sure the exact number. I will take that number back. But they just watched Hiroshima be wiped off the map in one blow. They had already signaled surrender, but no, we're going to drop Nagasaki, the bomb on Nagasaki, just to see how that other design worked. Fat Man and Little Boy. Was it right? Well, we used to think it was. Now we call it wrong. Right and wrong are subjective. You know, we have to pay attention to what it does inside of us when we say the label, right? And that's why I said to Kelly, you know, I much prefer to look in terms of things of whether it serves what we have said it was supposed to do. So in other words, because here's the thing. When we go with right and wrong, we're also not honoring that which we've created, because we've created it. And before you don't jive with that idea, imagine if our Creator actually acted like Christianity in the Old Testament would have you believe. Oops, made a mistake, don't like these humans, grind them underfoot. Ultimately what we're doing here is learning to become responsible creators, okay? Loving creators, which means we have to love what we've created. It's not wrong per se. It doesn't serve. It causes harm. It anything but it's wrong. And when we take it from that point of view, we can still allow ourselves to stay away from judging our creation and instead loving our creation and then letting it go and choosing to create again. To take the ashes of that creation and allow a new and better creation to emerge. Not in a knee-jerk response in the apparent rightness of what we feel as opposed to the wrongness of another. No good, no bad. This one you need to chuck out the door. You really do. Because the same thing happens. I'm on the winning side. I'm on the side of good. That means God is on my side. You are on the side of bad or evil or not good. And therefore, I have the right to do whatever I want to you. Well, you're a terrorist, or you come from a country where terrorists come from. Terrorist is a label. Desperate people, tired of having their country destroyed, raped, and pillaged by other nations. Isn't that just as valid a description? If you look at the Bhagavad Gita, if you look at every single holy text, and you can see this in the Bible too, if you pay close attention, it's actually quite clear that good and bad are simply judgments that human beings place on things. In reality, everything is serving. Everything is serving our collective growth, our collective vision, our collective evolution forward. The thing about Hitler was one guy. He maybe could have been a serial killer and killed 100 Jews. The shame of Hitler belongs to the human race. Why? Because he showed us the depths of our own depravity. Our willingness to sit by and do nothing as people were slaughtered wholesale as a world until it began to impinge upon us in some way, or our ability to get money or oil or other goods out of Europe. A people, and we, it's not the fault of the Germans, this belongs to the whole human race. He showed us an aspect of ourselves. Was that bad? Sure, it sure seems bad at the time, doesn't it? But you know what? It served the human race. It showed us a face of ourselves. It made us look at ourselves hard in the mirror. And, God forbid we couldn't get this message the first time. We said never again, again. Now, are we bad for not getting that never again the first time and saying never again again at the Second World War and now looking at a third one? We're not bad. We're not good. We are. And just like that beautiful sea of consciousness that pervades and is all things, this whole of the physicality of our universe, every creation within it, every manifestation of that glorious, magnificent oneness of life itself is doing the best it can and is absolutely perfect in the moments it is in, because it is always offering choice. It is always offering evolution forward, always offering growth. Dark and light, good and bad, right and wrong, what are these things? Look at the yin and yang. In order for the creation of the relative universe, both sides of any equation must be present. You cannot have joy without sorrow. You know, I believe it was Khalil Gibran who said that as you're experiencing joy, sorrow is lying in your bed. Or something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing. But the point is you can't have cold without hot. You can't have up without down. As soon as you take one side, the other exists with it, and the dysfunctional state of trying to exist on one side or the other side manifests itself. That's why Buddha, Christ, every spiritual leader speaks about walking the little tiny, nearly invisible line that splits the two. Splits the two amoebas, or whatever you want to call them, of the two paisleys of the yin and yang. There's a pathway there. That pathway is called the middle road. It is the pathway of non-judgment, where you understand that the dark is simply an illusion to get you to see the light. And that in fact, there is only light. Only light. Any perceived lack of light or light within the light isn't the light. It is all the light. It is all how we choose to judge, how we choose to interpret. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. I look around myself and I constantly shake my head about our society and our way of life. But I chuckle about it. And I remind myself that it's all okay. So, to the question, what do we do? What do we do? How do we honor walking that middle road and change our world? Step one, change yourself. This is the biggest journey that you face, is integrating all of the truths that you have become experientially aware of or that spawn out of your experience, and now you have to integrate them into your egoic sense of self. And you have to become comfortable with knowing that your ego is not all you are, and you have to be comfortable with that at an egoic level, and that's going to take time. It's going to take retraining it. You know, for me, it was over 30, 30 some odd years. Kelly, 40 plus. You got a lot of programming there. A lot of habit of damnation and judgment. And of course, what happens when you go through that rabbit hole is you forget very quickly the way you used to be. We forget that we were in those same spots egoically at one point, if not in this life, in a past life, guaranteed. We forget the pain and suffering of total unconsciousness because we're not quite so unconscious anymore. Yet we're still suffering in many ways. And we understand that we're causing the suffering ourselves. And we get really frustrated with ourselves about it a lot of times. You really only have two choices. As I commented on a post that was posted in the group. You can spend all your time fighting up against what is, all your time pushing up against it, which is going to be the only version of hell that truly exists, and you will live it as your life. Or you can surrender and let go and put your energies into that which you wish to manifest for yourself and in the world around you. Which means when you see something that breeds separation, rather than getting angry and beating up against it, which only causes it to grow, only feeds it. Stand for harmony and togetherness. But don't let yourself fall into hating or despising or disliking or judging those who in their fear would strive to separate, to try to protect an aspect of themselves. The most poignant words ever written in a spiritual text are the most powerful lesson that we as awakening beings need to hold in our heart. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. It brings me to tears. This came from a man so full of compassion that he could be there suffering on a cross and deliver not a supplication to his own Father to have him not strike down these people, but instead a beautiful lesson for us all. None of us know what the hell we're doing. We are the preschoolers of the universe. And I know Kim says here it's hard when you see children being held against their will. You know, I watched that little video clip on that senator or congressman, I'm not sure which, and I apologize for that. It's only a label, and I don't care. Who had the guts to stand there, and he was playing a recording of children crying in a detention center, separating children from their parents, and the children don't know whether they're ever going to see their parents again, and the parents don't know whether they're ever going to see that child again. Can you imagine that? The opportunity to get angry at those sort of people is huge. I understand. And that's exactly where that line is the balance. And of course, the balance is all about standing up for what you believe in, not pushing up against what you don't. I cannot get this message. This is the most serious message that I've ever delivered about anything. I don't care whether you believe me about anything else. That doesn't really matter to me. But if you believe this one thing, it will change your existence. Pushing up against what already is insanity. Because it is the product of past thinking, past words, past actions. You only help continue the poison that it has introduced. Standing for and creating anew with new words, new thoughts, and new deeds. Putting all your energy into that is what counts. Is what will change the world. And I'm not saying that it's not okay to stand up and be counted in a march where they are looking to raise awareness. But don't involve yourself in hating people who are already suffering, because I tell you, you cannot be a human being and kid yourself to think that the adult security guards standing in those rooms hearing those crying children all day are not being deeply affected, because they are. And there is a perfection there. There is a gift of those souls being willing to suffer in an illusion in order to help evolve consciousness of the species of the whole. If one of those guards awakens to a new level of awareness in response to what's going on, there is magnificence within that sacrifice. It is a balance line. It is a place you must learn to come from when you are willing to see both the tree and the forest. Yeah, you can always take a new action, a new uplifting action. Because, those people are suffering too. That's the thing that when Kelly and I first met, she was of the opinion that she was the only one on the planet going through problems with her family. Every single member of humanity is suffering through their own thought processes based on their environments, and we have so bought into the completely natural development of ego. We have so bought into the idea that we are the car computer, we forget we're the mute passenger. We're the observer who's just enjoying the ride, got the window down, head hanging out, tongue hanging out like a dog in the wind, taking a few bugs in the teeth, and enjoying the ride, making no comment on it. Just sucking up the experience. As above, so below. That's where we're going to as a humanity, as a physical world, as a species. The whole of this universe is moving itself towards that vision of conscious evolution and growth. It can't help but do it. It is that sea of creation evolving itself. It is always in the act of exploring itself, of knowing itself. And because it is boundless and timeless and limitless, that adventure goes on for eternity. Ever and ever levels of conscious awakening, higher levels of conscious awakening. It is not so much about right and wrong, good and bad, dark and light, as all the things that we do in response to those labels. Allow yourself to see the suffering in the one delivering the beating to another, as hard as it may be. I got to tell you, I see red when I see someone abusing physically someone else who's much smaller than them. I don't care how big the person is, I'm coming after you. And I have a hard time fighting that impulse. But the hardest lesson is that bully is crying out in the only way that bully can cry out. That person is suffering too, and we always have a decision to make. Are we going to be like Christ, like Buddha? Like those we would venerate who teach us the most and the best of what's in store for us, of what we all have the capability to be? Do we love that Roman soldier putting the sword in our, or the spear in our side? Or do we condemn them and hate them and judge them because they are wrong and we are right, and we are good and they are bad, and they are dark and we are light? Perhaps our job is not to shy away from the dark, but to instead ensure that the light reaches into the dark places. This dark night of ego is a trip. It really is. because you will see as you wake up more and more things that you will look at and say, well, this doesn't make sense. I see through this. Remember our own levels of consciousness in the past. We would not wish to be blamed for that which we did in a state of unconsciousness. Let us not blame others. We can hold them responsible, but let us do it lovingly and caringly so that they grow from their experience, not shrink, not be pushed down, turned away. Who needs more love in the world? I would say it's equal, those who are suffering and those who would perpetrate suffering on another. I hope this makes some sense. I hope this brings you to a little more point of understanding that we have to be very careful about what we would judge and how we would label it, because we have a whole bunch of unconscious things behind it. When you're not willing, or when you are willing to allow someone to be just as right as you are, there's an opportunity for growth and for coming together. But if you're going to stick with your right in opposition to their wrongness, what opportunity is there? You see, there are not a huge number of issues wrong with humanity and with society. There are not 10,000 things going wrong that we have to solve. There's only one thing that's screwing us up. And thanks to that wonderful web of life, that ever-evolving, magnificent web of creation, of life itself, it is made perfect anyways. That one thing is our own ego. Our own false perceptions about who we are, and every action that we take out of that false perception. We change the world best, we change society best by working on ourselves and spreading that awakening and helping people walk through the dark night of ego as your sense of self comes to terms with the fact that it's not the be-all, end-all of your existence. And once you finally accept it at an egoic level, you truly do inhabit both realms at the same time joyfully, because there's no push-up against it anymore. Ego knows it's part of the eternal picture now. It's okay. It doesn't have to be anything else than what it chooses to be, that it wants to express as its most highest, beautiful, fear-free, guilt-free expression of what you've always thought you were. Do it. That's what you are. There's nothing wrong with humanity. There's just choice. Choose. Choose for you. And the world will follow. That's the truth. And that's it. That's all I got. Much love to you all today. You may come back later today on the group page for an evening meditation. Not promising, but keep an eye out. May do it. May repeat Shiva Shambho again just one more time. You know, Shiva Shambho Sunday Spectacular. Have a wonderful Sunday afternoon. Much love to you all, and namaste. Take care.